Today we are going to review a little bit what we did last class. Last class was an asynchronous one, so we still have some things to talk about. So I think that with today's class, we can finish up the question formation unit. We have reviewed a lot of different questions that we can make in English, and we have reviewed the formation of these questions, the word order, etc. So now I think after a short review, it's time for us to move on to another topic. I'm going to tell you the other topic in a few minutes. After reviewing a little bit the question formation topic, we are going to do a listening exercise, which is going to take place in Teams. And well, yeah, so then I'm hoping that we can describe a few situations, a few things regarding the vocabulary that we are going to practice tonight. So yeah, that's our plan for today. And let's go straight to my slides. Let me change this a little bit. Let me start sharing my slides. Let me go there. Alrighty, so yeah, the topic that we have been reviewing in the past few days, it's question formation in all verb tenses, especially focusing in the present simple, because if you well remember, we at the beginning of this unit, we were talking about the present tenses. That's what opened up the unit for us. So the idea of this question formation, it's also to focus on the use of the present tenses, especially paying attention to the different auxiliary verbs that we can use in the present and the way in which we can use the present tenses to ask questions. All right, so that's the topic that opened up everything that we have been looking at these days. So yeah, we completed some exercises about the present tenses when we started with this. And I also had you interview each other and try to share some experiences using present tenses and also the past in this case. And then we talked about question formations. This is where where everything started regarding the questions that we can make in English, especially focusing in the present simple. So yeah, we had a look at a few rules for making questions. And then finally, we arrived to the topic that opened up last class, well, 2 classes ago, actually, which was subject and object questions. So we were explaining or trying to explain why sometimes we can use auxiliary verbs in questions and why sometimes we don't use auxiliary verbs. So that was the idea, to be able to identify these two big type of questions, because these two types of questions are quite important in order to understand this specific idea of using the auxiliary verb. Yeah, I always tell my students, you can never ask a question without an auxiliary verb, just for them to remember that it is important to use auxiliary verbs in questions. But the real thing is that it's not always like that. Sometimes you can ask a question with an auxiliary verb, and sometimes it's not necessary. All right, so that's why I wanted to review subject and object questions with you. Let's just remember that the object questions always try to find out information that is part of the object of a sentence, of an affirmative sentence, whereas a subject question is always trying to find out the information that is part of the subject of the affirmative sentence. That's why they are called subject and object questions, because of the nature of the information that they are trying to gather. That's it, right? So this is something that we closely looked at 2 classes ago. Last class, I tried to review it a little bit. Now I'm bringing it back just for you to remember, because repetition when we are learning languages, it's key, it's very important. So please, oh please try to remember these kind of things every time that you have some free time. Otherwise, you are going to forget about it. So the idea is not that you forget about this. Yeah, we had another example here following the same rule. So an object question carries a auxiliary verb and asks about the object of a sentence, whereas a subject question doesn't take an auxiliary verb, it conjugates the verb, and it is asking about the subject of a question. That's it. Then after that, we talked about indirect questions, or what we also call embedded questions. So any of those that you use, it's perfectly fine. I was supposed to be writing, but it wasn't. I don't know what happened. So yeah, embedded questions or indirect questions. So I told you that in English we have 2 ways of asking a question, in the sense of how direct or indirect we want to be. If I want to be very direct, I'll just go and ask you directly, what's your name, for example. But if I don't know you, or I'm not sure if I should be asking this question, I want to sound a little more polite, I would say, I was wondering whether you can tell me your name, or could you tell me your name? So you can go as indirect as you want. You have many phrases there in order to help you ask these indirect or direct questions. So yeah, that's pretty much it with indirect questions. Then what we did is to differentiate between questions within a question and questions within a statement. So question within a statement would be those kind of questions that are inside of a statement that is an affirmative sentence. So it's not a question in essence, because it doesn't have a question mark, but it's actually a question because I'm still trying to find out information. So if I say, I want to know where Helen works, I'm not asking directly, where does Helen work? That's direct. But I want to know where Helen works, it's not direct. But I am still asking a question. I still expect an answer. I want to know where Helen works. Still, I want people to tell me where she works, right? So it is a question within a statement. And on the other hand, we had a question within a question, which is actually a regular question with a question mark and everything. So do you know where Helen works? In that case, I'm asking a question, but it's an indirect one, not going straight forward. If it were direct, it would say, where does Helen work? But I don't want to go that straight, so I take something else and I say, do you know where Helen works? I still want to know where she works, right? So that's the idea, and that's the difference between these 2 types of sentences. And yeah, last class, which was asynchronous, we were reviewing this, and I had you answer some exercises about this. Yeah, and we focused on the use of all of these questions within a statement and questions within a question. I'm hoping that it made sense. I'm hoping that if you already knew this, maybe you could remember something else, or maybe you got the chance to practice. Because in our course, this is not new information. We had studied this before. But yeah, I'm hoping that at least it helps you remember a few things. Now, the last thing that I want to remind you about this is that when you have a yes or no questions, or what I call closed questions, when you want to have a question within a statement or question within a question, you always are going to need if or whether. depending on what you want to use. Remember that if and whether, they mean the same. So it's not a problem, but you have to choose one of them at least. So yeah, that's a rule for adding if in the middle of these sentences. And the idea is that you have more options for when you want to ask a question, and you have more vocabulary and you have more ways so you can understand better when people speak, right? So that's the idea of reviewing embedded questions. I highly recommend that you incorporate also this type of questions into your vocabulary, because especially the questions within, the questions within a statement are quite useful when you are speaking, right? So it's not always useful for when you want to ask a question, but also when you're speaking, because it makes sense to have the statement word order instead of the question word order. So yeah, this is something that you must keep in mind. It's very useful. And yeah, so that's what we did last class. I want to see if you have any questions from last class. Do you need more examples? Or we are good and we can move on to the next exercise. So let me give you a few seconds to find out if you have questions. Alrighty, so apparently we are good. Yeah, we'll see, we'll keep working on this. Of course, then we are going to move on to other verb tenses, but I'm still going to bring question forms to other verb tenses, because knowing how to make a question is a very important skill. So yeah, we are going to keep drilling on this. Yeah, Marcelo, tell me, what happened?
But could we have the correct answers for this practice, for these examples, just to check?
Oh, alrighty. These ones that we have on the slides, or the ones that we have in the document, the long document?
The long document.
Oh, alrighty. Yes, I do have those on my folder. Let me go there. Let me check, because as far as I remember, I got it on my folder. That's not where I wanted to go. Let's see. And where's my folder? Yeah, we have them here. So if you want to check them out, go to my folder on Drive, and this is where you are going to find them. Okay, that's where they are. It's called Embedded Questions, and if you open up the whole thing, you are going to find, I think that in the slides, I shared the first 10 questions. So all of these were on my slides. And here I have a few options also, not only the basic ones, but also I want to know, for example, I wonder, I can't remember, tell me. So other phrases that you can use. So until this point, we were showing them on the slides. And then, yeah, we have the rest of them. We have 10 more that they are also completed. So yeah, if you want to check it out, you can find it here. Is that what you were asking, Marcelo? Is it?
Yes, yes. It's perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Alejandra, tell us.
Thank you, Val. Hi to everybody. I would like you to go to the slides, please, because I can't. I don't get the difference between a question with a statement and a question with a question. I mean, with the statement, I understand because you have, I would like to know, this is a question, and the statement is, she has eaten. But the question with a question, I would thought that it would be, do you know if have they found a flat, for example, but it's incorrect. that's where I don't get the question within a question.
Thank you very much. We'll talk about it. So do you know if they have found a plot? Oh, if she has eaten. Yeah. All right. So the question within a statement is useful for when you want to just stay in the affirmative sentences. All right. So you don't want to go to ask a question, whether directly or indirectly. So that's why we have phrases like "I would like to know," or "I was wondering," "I want to know," etc. So they are immediately statements. So you start with a statement. I was wondering. This is a statement. Whereas in the question, you always start by a question form, like, do you know if she has eaten? Do is it's proper from a question. You don't usually use do at the beginning in a statement, for example. So yeah, the idea is that when you ask a question within a question, you need to start by the question form. This is the question form. Do you know? It's a question. The statement is here. She has eaten. That's an affirmative sentence. She has eaten. But the first part is a question. Do you know? All right, so that's the deal with the question within a question. It always starts by a question form. And the second part, it's an affirmative sentence, usually affirmative. Also, for example, with the word could. So could you tell me? That's definitely a question. And Julie liked school. That's definitely an affirmative sentence. So yeah, they have the idea of asking a question, of course, in the proper way, in the usual way, in the ordinary way, if you wish, of a question, plus a not so ordinary way, which is the affirmative statements. So it's like mixing both together. That would be the difference between those two. This one, it's just two affirmative sentences or two statements, if you wish. I would like to know, it's an affirmative sentence. She has eaten, it's an affirmative sentence. And so that would be the deal between those two. Now, we can wonder, when am I going to use a question within a statement? Well, usually when you are just telling a story, but you don't want to ask a question directly. For example, I could tell you a story. I talked to Melissa yesterday, and I asked her if she had eaten. Right? So I'm using a question within a statement, an embedded question there, but I'm just telling you a story. I'm not asking you if she had eaten. I'm just telling you that I was wondering if she had eaten when we were speaking together. So let me write it down in case anybody needs it. So I was talking to Melissa last night, and I was wondering if she had eaten. I'm telling you what I did last night. Why was I wondering if she had eaten? Because maybe I was hungry and I wanted to eat something, but I didn't ask her. So I was just wondering. I was asking myself, but not her. Right? So I'm telling you a story. I'm not asking you anything, but I'm still using the idea of the question within a statement. So after if, I still have an affirmative sentence or a statement. That's the idea. Whereas when I have the question within a question, I'm asking you a question directly. So I was talking to Melissa last night, and I asked her, could you tell me if you had eaten, for example? Right. So in that case, I'm using a question directly. So yeah, it all depends on the context and how you want to use this these different types of questions that we have, right? So that's the idea with them. It's not so difficult, but I must reckon that when we are speaking, sometimes we forget about this idea, and sometimes we use the question form when we are not supposed to use the question form. So that's why embedded questions are kind of important to practice, because we tend to forget how they work. That's the idea. All right, do we have more questions or comments here? Do you need more examples? Let me know. All right, so yeah, don't forget when you have closed questions, you need to add if or whether, depending on which one you prefer. That's also an important thing. All right, so yeah, that's the deal with question forms. As I told you, it's important to know these rules, and yeah, it takes some time to realize that you're supposed to use a question within a statement, for example, in when you're speaking, like in real life. But yeah, the more we practice, the easier it gets. So please, oh please don't forget about this content, because it's useful to know about it. Yeah, so now we are going to practice a little bit with more questions. I'm going to have you work in pairs this time. What's going to happen? I'm going to have you listen to an audio. We are going to see if this works. All right, so we're going to listen to the audio all together. What I recommend is that you take notes, please. So please have a pen, a piece of paper, and take notes of the audio, because after we hear it, we are going to need the information that we gather from the audio in order to answer some questions, okay? So this is a listening exercise. Yeah, let's listen just once without having to see anything yet. After we listen, I'm going to check how much of the information you got, and we'll talk about this. All right, so let me stop sharing this so nothing distracts you from just listening. Please, oh please, take this time just to hear out the audio. Don't do anything else apart from taking notes and paying attention. That's what I want you to do. Don't get distracted, so we can check your listening skills. Now, let me share my sound and computer audio. So I'm just sharing my computer audio, and please let me know if you can hear what I'm going to play, because yeah, if you can hear it, there's no point. If there's any problem with the audio, please let me know on the chat. Get ready. Now we're going to listen. Okay, let's go.
1.9. 1.
I was being interviewed for a job with an advertising agency, and the interviewer kept checking information on my resume and then asking me about it. And he saw that I studied philosophy in college, and he said, "Oh, I see that you studied philosophy in college. Do you still practice philosophy?" So I said, "Well, I still think a lot." Anyway, he obviously liked the answer because I got the job.
2.
At my job interview to become an editor with a publishing company, there were 3 people asking questions, 2 managers and a woman from Human Resources. All the questions had been pretty normal. They were about my studies and experience, and then suddenly the woman from Human Resources asked me, "What would make you kick a dog?" I was totally flustered, but I managed to answer. I said, "I'd only kick it if the dog had bad grammar and couldn't punctuate properly." I thought it was a clever answer, and in fact, I got the job.
3.
When I was applying for a teaching job in Korea, they were doing the interviews by phone because I was in the US. And because of the time difference, they were all very early in the morning, which is not my best time. Anyway, the director of studies of this particular school asked me, "How tall are you? And how much do you weigh?" I answered his questions, but after the interview, when I thought about it, I decided that I didn't want to work in a school that would judge me by my height or my weight. So later, when they offered me the job, I turned it down.
4.
I was being interviewed for a job, and the interviewer asked me, "What animal would you like to be reincarnated as?" So I said a cat, because it was the first thing I thought of, and because cats have a good life. Well, at least in the US they do. And then the interviewer immediately looked a little embarrassed and said that he had been told to ask me that question to see how I would react, but that he thought it was a stupid question. In the end, I didn't get the job, so maybe the interviewer wasn't very fond of cats.
5.
I went for a job interview at a lawyer's office. There were 2 of us waiting to be interviewed, me and a man about the same age as me. He was nice, so we were chatting before we went in, and we agreed to have a coffee afterward. Well, I went in first, and they asked me the usual kinds of questions about my previous job. They had all my personal information on my resume, and so they knew I was married, and suddenly they asked me, "Are you planning to have children?" I said, "Not in the immediate future, but maybe one day." Afterward, when I was having coffee with the other candidate, I asked him if he'd been asked the same question, and he said no, even though he was married too. In fact, we both got offered jobs, but I still think that it was a very sexist question to ask.
Okay, so there we are. It was a long audio, wasn't it? It's kind of hard to gather a lot of information when you have to pay close attention to an audio for 3 minutes. It's quite long. So now let me ask you guys, how much of this audio did you understand according to your own criteria, of course? Did you get 100% of it? 75, 50, 25, or 0? It wasn't so hard, I guess, but yeah, sometimes you can get lost because you're trying to get everything. It happens a lot to students when they are trying to understand an audio, is that they want to understand every single word. That's not how listening skills work. You have to understand main ideas, important ideas, but it is impossible to understand every single word. So yeah, don't focus on that when you are trying to do a listening exercise. We have a lot of people who think they got 100%. I'm happy about it. I don't think I got the 100% because I got distracted at some point. It was quite long. So the difficulty is to take notes at the same time. Yeah, that's right, because you're trying to focus on writing. Yeah, that's why I wanted you to take notes, to see if you could do both things at the same time. That's a different type of skill. Listening, it's one skill, but listening, interpreting, and writing, it's a whole nother level. So that's why I wanted you to do that tonight, so we can see how we're doing it at that. Let me end the poll then and share the results. So we have quite a few people thinking that they got everything on the audio. And yeah, then we have people thinking that they got 75%. Yeah, we'll see now how it goes, because now you have to complete an activity with this audio. So what is the main topic? Can anybody tell me what these people were talking about? They have one main topic in common.
Job interviews.
Job interviews.
Job interviews. There we go. Yes, yeah. All right, yeah, that's it. So at least you got the whole main idea, which is a lot of information already. So yeah, they are talking about job interviews, and then are they talking about common questions or what? What type of question? Sorry, can you repeat me, Miguel? I couldn't hear you.
not exactly normal questions. Some questions were a little bit strange, and in the last one, I think some question was sexist.
Yeah, you're right. So it was a sexist question, and they were complaining about it. Thank you, Miguel. Maria Elena, what can you tell us?
Well, one question was talk about that the animal that the people I don't know I don't know in English well an animal, and the guy asked that he think that he is a cat. I understand that.
Yeah, all right, very good. Yeah, they were also questions involving animals. That particular question about animals was a little strange, and it was a challenge. So yeah, Alejandra, what do you want to say?
Yeah, I think it is the one you are referring to, because the woman in human resources asked in which situation she would kick a dog, and it was a kind of a strange question, and she answered that she would kill the dog if the dog would have bad grammar. So it was a creative response. So I think she got the job.
Yeah, it was a happy ending with a very strange question. Yeah, thank you very much, Alejandra. That's right. That was the question. Virginia, what do you want to say?
No, in some cases, in interviews, there questions about strange questions to know the reactions in difficult situations to the people.
Yeah, that's right. That's the whole idea, Virginia. Thank you very much. That's the whole idea of the audio, like strange questions that you can get asked in a job interview to see how you react. So yeah, those people are asking those questions are trying to cut people on guard. So yeah, it's all of them were strange, but I think the strangest one was the one with the dog. I think so. Now we are going to complete an activity with this. All right. So yeah, Miguel, tell us.
Sorry, but I have a doubt in my mind about the pronunciation. I think I pronounced bad the word sexist. I don't know. I think I'm saying very sexiest, sexiest. No, I don't know how is the difference between sexista and muy sexy.
Yes, like you are talking about these two words. Let me share my board. So we are talking about these two words, sexiest and the other word, sexist. So let me make it bigger. I think it's too small. Yeah. So sexiest, it would be like the sexiest person, for example. And this means, oh, not person, it's person. This is how do you call it? Superlative. Superlative. Yeah, I'm just making some context for people who are not familiar with these words. And then we have sexist, which is just an adjective. And it's a bad thing to do. So yeah, this one would be sexiest. Sexiest. You have to pronounce slightly the E there, sexiest. Whereas in this one, you just go with a short sound of the E, sexist, sexist. That would be the only difference. The E here makes a difference. Sexiest, sexist. That's it.
Okay. So it's the E has to sound.
Yes, it has to sound and it makes a difference.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. All right, yeah, so that's the two words that we were talking about. All right, now let's go back. This is an important word for the audio, so keep it in mind. Let me close the whiteboard. And now we are going to go to an activity, okay? You have to complete this activity in pairs, I'm guessing. All right, so I'm going to share this Jamboard with all of you. And here you have to remember what you heard on the interview. And you have to answer 3 types of questions, or, well, apart from the other 5. What strange question were they asked? Now you also have to interpret how did they answer. And also you have to tell me what happened in the end. All right, so don't transcribe everything that you hear from the audio, just interpret the information. So how did they answer? They answered in a funny way because they said that, for example. All right, so don't try to transcribe everything that you hear because that's not useful. My idea with this listening activity is that you hear something and you are able to interpret the information and express it with your own ideas. It's not as hard as it seems, okay? Anyways, I'm going to share the audio with you, with all of you. Well, I just shared it only with one person. Let me try again. Let me go again. Okay, now it's for everyone. So the audio, it's on the chat. You can download it if you want to listen to it again. Don't listen to it again on your own because you have to work in pairs. So wait until you can be with another person. Maybe both of you want to hear it again. Or maybe you forgot about something or some information. You can just go and check it again. Right, so let me share the link of this Jamboard. So also you can go there. You can share your screen. And yeah, I'm hoping that you can have a discussion also about how to answer these questions, okay? Because as I said, you need to interpret the information and not just transcribe everything that the person or the people say on the interviews. All right, so yeah, that's what you need to do. Interpret the information and complete the blank spaces here. Do we have questions before going to the small rooms? No questions? So where are you going to work? I haven't said anything about where are you going to work. I said we are going to work in pairs. Now, how is that going to work? We are going to pick up the slide that matches the group number that we are in, all right? So if I am in group 1, I'm going to work in slide 1. If I'm in group 2, I'm going to work on slide 2 on the next one. Then we have slide 3, slide 4, etc. All right, so depending on which group you are on Zoom, you have to pick up the same slide on Jamboard. That's it. That was my last thing that I wanted to say. All right, let's go now to the small rooms. Let's see how it goes. Oops. Yeah, let's go there and I'll be visiting you, of course. See you in a few minutes. Okay, I think everybody is back. This was a difficult exercise for most of us, I think. We're going to review a little bit. We're going to go with this one just because I like the handwriting here. It's a little different from the rest, but they have the same answers than the other ones. So please check your answers too. So the first one would be, do you still practice philosophy? And I think that's right. They still practice philosophy. And he said, I'm still thinking a lot. That's what he answered. Some people wrote differently, like, no, that's not the one that I wanted to share. Yeah, most of you wrote just the answer. He still thinks a lot. And some people wrote something like this, which I also like making a joke. So they didn't transcribe the exact words, but they interpreted the information. So yeah, this person didn't answer if he practices or doesn't practice philosophy. He just says, well, I'm still thinking. So he made a joke. That's the idea, right? So yeah, you could do this, like interpret the information and just say different things, or just transcribe what other people said, right? So yeah, that the idea is that it was a joke. He wasn't being serious about this. Let's go back to the one that we were reviewing previously. And yeah, he says, I'm still thinking a lot. Also here, you could have used a reported speech. So he said he was still thinking a lot. Reported speech is always something that we need to keep in mind, and I think it's in our plan also. And the result is that he got the job because he was clever, he was funny. And then we have the second one. What would make you quick a dog? Are we sure about this? What is the correct word here instead of quick? Kick.
Yes.
Yes. Kick. Just kick. There you go. Just kick a dog. Yeah, that's the idea. Kick a dog, which is a terrible thing to do. Please don't do it at home. It's a terrible thing to do. It's a very strange question, but yeah. And she said if it would have bad grammar. So yeah, if it had in that case, instead of would have. Let me just correct so all of us can see what we could have done better. If it had bad grammar, she would kick this poor creature. And of course, she got the job. So again, it is correct. She got the job. Then everybody had trouble with this one. How tall are you? That's when you want to know about height, people's height. And also how much do you weigh? So this is also, this also needed some help, because you cannot say how much you weigh. It's not possible. You have to say how much do you weigh. And I think all of you got that wrong just because of the mistake that it's there in front. But remember, if you are asking object questions, you need the auxiliary verb. It's mandatory. Then we don't say weight. So you cannot say weight, because there is a difference between weigh and weight. What is the difference between weigh and weight? Can anybody help me here? Are they the same? They are not the same. So weigh is the verb and weight is the noun. Since here we are asking a question, we need the verb weigh. So how could it be a verb? It would be also like it weighs, for example. It weighs 2 pounds, I don't know. Right? So careful about those two words, weighs and weights. It's different. So how much do you weight? Nope, it's not like that. How much do you weigh? Only weigh. Okay, so let's keep reviewing this one. How much do you weigh? He answered, this is what I always tell you about, guys. You keep on using the present when you're supposed to use the past. If you are talking about something that's already happened, it's the past. So he answered the question, but he was not pleased with them. Okay, he was not pleased with them. And I agree, he didn't like the questions. And also we have here an adjective, which is pleased. Pleased, he was not pleased. All right, now I have a question for all of you guys. So he rejected the job. Was it a job? Was it really a job, or was he applying for something different than a job? And I am talking about this one. Wasn't it at a university? that this conversation took place? Does
In
anybody?
Korea, it was an interview for a teaching job.
Ah, all righty. A teaching job in Korea. Yes. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so he wasn't applying to be a student in the university. He was applying to be a teacher there. And he rejected the job because he didn't like the questions. He didn't want to work in a place where they would ask those kind of questions. How can we say reject the job using a phrasal verb? Which phrasal verb? Turn it down. There you go.
Down.
Yes. Turn, and in this case, it's in the past, turned it down. So he turned it down. Definitely. He didn't like the place. So what animal would you like to be reincarnated as? And he said he would like to be reincarnated in a cat. Cat. To be reincarnated in a cat. And yeah, he didn't get the job. Why not? What happened in this story? Why didn't he get the job? Didn't the boss like cats, or what was the problem?
The interviewer doesn't like the cat.
Oh, the interviewer didn't like the cats?
Yes, I remember that. I don't know.
Yeah, all right. Thank you very much, Miguel. Do we agree? Is that the reason why he didn't get the job? He didn't like cats? Do we have any other idea?
The interviewer thought that it was a silly question and maybe didn't think that the guy will take you seriously. Would take you seriously.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. He didn't think the guy would take it seriously. Yeah. All right. I don't know what the problem is with cats. I'm not very familiar with the topic of cats, but yeah, it was about taking things seriously. There you go. Yep. And then you have, are you planning to have children anytime soon? That was the sexiest question. She said she wasn't planning to have children, and she didn't get the job. She didn't get the job, or she refused the job. What was the story here in the last one?
She got an offer, but she didn't say if she took the offer.
There you go. Thank you very much, Nicole. So yeah, they gave her an offer, but she didn't like the questions. She was uncomfortable with that. So at the end, she didn't mention if she got the job or anything. She just said, oh, it was very sexist. And yeah, she didn't feel comfortable with that. Probably she didn't take the job instead of get the job. Do we have any other idea about this? Or do we all agree? Let's see. Refused and rejected. Yeah, that's a good question. Let me copy those. Oops. All right, yeah, so listening exercises are never the easiest part, especially when you have to interpret all the information and try to explain what you heard in your own words. So yeah, I think it's important for us to be able to gather information and then to reproduce that information too. So I recommend doing listening exercises whenever you have the time or whenever you want. I'm going to gather a few of them. I have many listening exercises that may be helpful for you, and I'm going to try to include more listening exercises in the class. Because yeah, listening is a very important part of also being able to reproduce words. So yeah, we'll bring it together to the class. Nicole, tell us.
Val, I'm not sure if in the first question we have to write practice or practicing, because I listen practicing.
Yes. Yeah, I also heard practicing, because I think he asked, are you still practicing philosophy? But yeah, it depends on the tense. If you are asking like in the continuous form, are you still practicing? Then in that case, it has to be with an ing. But in the case that we have on the slides, you cannot use practicing because you have do. In that case, you have to change it a little bit into the present simple because do belongs to the present simple. So do you still practice?
Okay, thank you.
Good. That's a good question because it is important to focus on the idea that do and ing can never be together. They don't belong together. They sound weird. All right. So whenever you have do, what follows is the base form, and that is the present simple. And whenever, what did I write? Practicing. And whenever you want to use the ing form, you have to use the continuous form. So careful with those tenses, and they are usually mistaken. Alejandra, tell us.
Thanks, Val. It's just a curiosity how this group wrote in this kind of in this type of letters.
Yes. Yeah, I'm also curious about that. Thank you for that question. So let's ask them. Miguel, how did you do it? I don't know.
Sorry, can you please
Yes.
answer again? Oh,
Yes. Let's.
ask question again.
Yeah, let me go again. How did you write like that?
My tablet.
Oh, so it's
Because
easy.
because in the tablet I can write with the text box, so I have to use my pen.
Oh, alrighty. So that now what we are seeing is Miguel's handwriting. Yeah, all right. Okay, thank you very much, Miguel, for that information. I was also curious, so good. Yeah, it's not something that all of us can do. The rest of us need to just type on the keyboard. So yeah, cool. All right. Yeah, what was the question that I had on the chat? Refuse and reject. So yeah, refuse and reject. Refused, it means not like to not accept. It's more like similar to decline also, if you wish, decline. Whereas reject, it's the same, but it has kind of a feeling that you reject something because it's something bad for you. You don't like it. You have a bad feeling about it. So that's why you reject something. So in Spanish, it's more related to the idea of rechazar algo, like we don't like it. But refuse it's a little calmer. It's like not accept something, but it's not essentially related to the idea of not liking something or hating something. So yeah, that would be the differences between those two. Other than that, they are synonyms. The idea is that they carry some different meaning, but yeah, they can be used kind of in a similar fashion, if you wish. Yeah, let me check what else do we have in the chat. Question differently. And one else refuse you. Someone else, yeah, you reject and someone else's refuses you. Yeah, it could also work like that, Alejandra. So yeah, refused. Also, you can refuse to do something, like I refuse to talk to her, for example. But in reject, it's like when you don't take the chance to do something, right? So you cannot refuse to reject to talk to a person. Like you can reject an idea. So reject is more related to things. It's more abstract, whereas refused can be used to refer to people too. So that's also one difference between those two. All right, so yeah, that's the idea with the listening exercise also, that you can bring back some some vocabulary that you may not be using so often. So yeah, listening exercises help us a lot with that. Next class, we are going to work with reading exercises, all right? So be ready to read. I have a question about next class because it's on Saturday, and I know, Alejandra, that last class you told me about the census, but I read your question when we had finished the class already, so I didn't answer, but it was a good question because you reminded me of that. So we have the census on Saturday. What's going to happen with our class? Do you prefer to have it as a regular thing, like to meet at 7? And I have no problem with that. Do you want to skip the class? Do you want to have an asynchronous class? Let me know on the poll so we can make a decision right now and we can see what's going to happen with our beautiful Saturday class. Remember, if we if we skip the class, we are going to have the class by the end of the course. That's in June, on June 3rd, I think, right? So, yep. If we skip it, we have to make it up. We cannot just skip classes and not have classes anymore. Miguel, tell us.
But there is an option that we can have the class in normal way. Because it's in the sense so nobody has the chance to get out or I don't know, leaving the house or his house.
Yep, that's a good question. I was supposed to have that option there, so let me go again.
Maybe it's not an option because people can be doing the census like voluntaries. They won't.
I don't think we have voluntaries here because people would have told me, and nobody has told me anything yet.
Sergio he just wrote it.
Oh, alrighty. Yeah, let me still have the answer, the option, sorry.
But, and could we have the classes early in the morning?
Early in the morning? Yeah, for me, it's not a problem. Oh, no, I have to work in the morning. Yeah, tomorrow. I mean, on Saturday. Yep. It wouldn't be a problem if we could change it. But yeah, let's see what happens. And let me add the other chats. Yeah, okay. So I forgot to add that choice. Let's go again and we'll see. Girls class, regular class, or do you want to skip it and then we'll have it on June 3rd?
But then we have the same discussion about the next week and the whole week.
Yeah, we will have the same discussion about it. Not the whole week. I wouldn't say the whole week. Maybe we can have classes on Tuesday. But on Thursday, I'm not sure. So on Tuesday, we'll talk about it. Oh my gosh, now everybody's voting for it, all of the options. So let's make up our minds. I cannot vote. Okay. Yeah, this is not working. Let me show you the results. So we have the same amounts of people saying a regular class and skip it. Okay, I'm going to have you vote again on the WhatsApp group and we'll decide because now we cannot decide. Yeah, all right. And about next week, I know that on Thursday and Saturday, it's a difficult thing, but I think we can have classes on Tuesday, at least Tuesday next week. Also, I'm going to share a poll on WhatsApp so we can decide about those two also. Yeah, let's decide on WhatsApp because my option here didn't work out. Let me know what you think. Whatever we decide, I'm going to do on Saturday. If we decide to skip it, then let's have it. Anyways, I was planning on doing a reading exercise and moving on to another unit next class. So whenever that is, if it's on Saturday or if it's on Tuesday, be ready to move on, but don't forget, please, how to ask the questions and all of the different types of questions, because even though now we're moving to the future tenses, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be asking questions. So please, oh please, don't forget about this. And yeah, whatever extra questions that you may have, stay with me. Otherwise, you may leave. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. And please answer my poll on WhatsApp.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Val. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Ale.
Good evening.